Hey everybody, it's 9 o'clock and 9 o'clock is with me, Father Warner. We are at the end of the second week of Lent, and our first reading today is taken from the prophet Micah, chapter 7, verse 14 and 15, and then verses 18 to 20. I've also written a reflection on the Gospel of today that's taken from Luke chapter 15, verse 1 to 3 and 11 to 32. You could go to my blog, pottypadre.com, just type Luke chapter 15, verse 1 to 3, 11 to 32, or simply type Saturday of the second week of Lent in the search and you'll get it. But for those of you who would like to receive the links to the text of my daily teachings, just send me a WhatsApp message on the number that will appear on your screen. It's my private number, and I will send you the links each day. Now, I've entitled today's teaching, Who is Like Our God? It's taken from the text of Micah itself. And I'd recommend that you read the text of Micah chapter 7 first. Now, coming straight away to the explanation of the first reading. In the final recorded words of the prophet Micah, we read his prayer to the Lord. In it, Micah asked the Lord to be the shepherd of his people and to care for them. Let's put this text today in its historical context. So what's really happening? You see, the Babylonian invasion, which was prophesied by so many of the prophets, Isaiah, Hosea, it was no longer a threat. It was now imminent. It was going to happen. And the people who allowed themselves to be swayed by bad shepherds now had more than just a fractured relationship with God. You know, there was a time when God's people enjoyed a very close relationship with Him. The prophet Micah prays that God's people will be brought back to the place they belong and back to the relationship which was at one time, which now is in tatters, would one day be restored. Micah was praying past the circumstances for a closer relationship with the shepherd, and he hoped it would result in great wonders in their life. The prophet Micah, whose very name means who is like our God, Micah Yahu, that's where his name comes from, this very prophet uses his very name in verse 18 of chapter 7 to extol God and to glorify God. He asks, who is like our God? The simple and most accurate answer to that question is, there is no one. And that's where we get that popular hymn that we sing so often at praise and worships, who is like our God? There is no one. Stand up and give him the praise. So Micah glorifies God for his great forgiveness. He has pardoned sin and will pass over the transgressions of the remnant that will emerge from exile. Micah saw that God's forgiveness was so great that it can't even be compared to what often passes for forgiveness among men. Now, why does God have such great mercy and forgiveness to his people? The reasons are in him, not in his people. It is simply because God delights in mercy. So one is bound to ask that if God delights in mercy, then why are some men so lost? Why are men and women so lost? God opens his hand of mercy to all who will receive it. But those who will not receive his mercy can only blame themselves. Even so, some may ask, if God delights in mercy, then why is he not always, on every occasion, merciful? Because there comes a time when the guilty must be punished. God's judgments are in themselves expressions of mercy because they are like the cutting away of cancer. You know, the surgery hurts, but it must take place or the whole body will die. We are also told of God's compassion in verse 19. His compassion is shown when he treads our sins and casts our sins into the depths of the sea. This means there is no probation with God's forgiveness. He doesn't forgive our sins just to leave them around to hang over our head. In His compassion, He does away with our sins, casting them into the depths of the sea. And then He puts literally a no fishing sign there. He loves us as sinners, but loves us too much to leave us in our sin. His compassion saves us from sin. I hope you have a blessed week. I'll see you again tomorrow at 9 o'clock, where I'll do a teaching. It's an interesting teaching, so do tune in tomorrow again at 9 o'clock. But for today, do like this video, share it with your friends, and if you feel like reaching out to our home and offering a meal, either breakfast is just 1,000 rupees, lunch and dinner is a little more. But if you'd like to help the children of our home or donate to the home, please write to me. My number appears on the screen. Remember, there's a separate number for those who'd like to offer a donation either to St. Stephen's Table, where we feed people thrice a week hot meals, or to the Lovejoy Hope Foundation. That is one number. That's 98202 42151. But if you'd like to be added to the daily teachings, then that number too will appear on the screen. It's another one, so don't mix up the two. Also, I want to remind you that we have the missions here at St. Stephen's on the 31st of March, 1st and 2nd April, which will be conducted by Father Michael Payapalli. I want to welcome you all for those missions. While we do have pre-registrations and those will be seated in the church, we are also keeping other sections in our premises available for walk-ins. So anybody can walk in on any of the 3 days, but those who are attending all 3 days will be pre-registered. You need to send me a WhatsApp message on 98202 42151 to register. We have a limited number of seats. We've crossed 500 pre-registrations already. So don't delay, and we look forward to seeing you here. Bye everybody. I'll see you. Don't forget to like this video and leave your comments.